Hey, everybody, welcome to Kindred Spirits. I'm your host, Christy Brower, and you're listening live here on Fantastic Fridays here on 12radio.com. As usual, I'm thrilled to be here with you. I love radio, I love what I do. It's a blast to get to talk to you every week. So, there are several ways for you to listen and watch the show. So, first of all, you need to get to the chat room if you're available. You can do that by going to 12radio.com and clicking on chat, and that will take you right into our Facebook group. If you have not joined, simply ask, and my producer Scott will let you right in the door. In that room, I am there in two ways. So the pinned post at the top of the page is my banner. That's my chat. So you can ask me questions there. You can post comments about what I'm talking about. You can ask for a reading or a healing because I will do those later in the show. I also am live on Facebook Live in the chat room. So you can watch the show if you would like. I'm live on video. And I am doing something new. I am also live on YouTube Live. And so you can find me. If you search Christy Brower on YouTube, you'll find me. And I'm live there as well. I do that, for those folks that have decided to, kick Facebook to the curb. Also, it's because I have a YouTube channel where I keep all of my shows. So you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel and then go back and watch previous shows. I put their topics in there so that you can see what I talked about on that show if you missed something. So those are all the ways to listen and watch the show. Of course, if you're listening, you've already been to 12radio.com or on one of our apps. So I just want to say thank you for being here. I appreciate that so much. I have so much to share with you today, but I think I'm going to start with my new class over at 12academy.com. This is a new class. This is something I haven't taught before, but it is a part of a huge project I am in the midst of. I am right now writing a book. You guys know that. I've talked to you about it here on my show before. I'm in this fantastic process. I'm doing the Author's Way program, which is part of the incubated author program. So I have editors and coaches and all these people that are just fabulous helping me through this process. And as a part of it, I decided to teach a class, give you kind of a little taste about what this is all going to entail. So this class is on July 28th. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific over at 12academy.com. So it is a teleconference class. It will be recorded and the MP3 provided. So you don't have to attend live, but you can if you want. So here's my description of the class. Do you feel like you have tried it all and you still don't have the relationship you want? You may have already been meditating or taking classes on relationships and healing, and yet you are still alone. Have you considered giving up and just living alone with your cat for the rest of your life? Don't give up. There is hope for you to have the relationship you want, and I can show you how. So join me for a look at how to solve your relationship problem for good. So that's coming up a week from Saturday. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it's a 50-minute class. You can register at 12academy.com. I'm also going to post it in the chat room. So if you're in there, you will see it. I'm just looking forward to sharing this with you guys. And, this is a new direction for me. Not really. I work with people on relationships every single day. But this is kind of a new focus for classes for me. And I'm looking forward to sharing my perspective with you on relationships and maybe why you're struggling and what you can do to change that. So I'm going to share that right here in the chat room. So there is get the relationship you want and the link to go to it. So please, if this is an issue for you, something you've been struggling with, join me for this class. I have some solutions and I want to share them with you because I know a lot of spiritual, metaphysical, new age people who can't seem to find a relationship at all or are in a series of serial relationships that don't work out. This seems to be an area where a lot of people in the metaphysical community struggle. And that's why I wanted to focus on this because I know that. I know that from working with all of you. So I have some fun things to share, and be sure to here. Oh, thank you. Thanks for the compliments on my hair. I love it too. Finally got back to my pink. In the summertime, it wears out so quickly that sometimes I just sort of let it go because it gets a lot to stay up on. But I've decided it's time to get it back, so I did. All right. So I want to get to my topic for today, which is speaking your truth. We talk about throat chakra stuff a lot. We talk about speaking our truth. We just talk about being, honest with our feelings. But sometimes I wonder, what does that all really mean? And so I want to get to the meat of it today. I'm going to tell you a story about myself that happened last week related to this, just to illustrate. So one of the things that happens, I think, for us is in communication is that we sort of go to two extremes. So we either just stuff everything and don't really say how we feel, or we have a big explosion. And a lot of times it's both. So you may be a person who stuffs a lot of things and they build up and they build up and they build up, and then one day everything explodes all over somebody. And it's not really the way that you want to communicate. You probably say some things that you don't mean. You probably say some things you wish you could take back. You might hurt a relationship in doing that. We've all been there. I'm going to tell you what happened to me at the doctor's office last week, because this is a great example of this. So I went to, I have several doctors. I struggle with some medical stuff. And I was going to a doctor who's fairly new to me. This is only my second visit with him. And the nurse, I had waited 15, 20 minutes in the waiting room already. They take me to this little alcove where you sit and they do your vitals. Well, around the corner from the alcove is this big atrium. And in the atrium is my doctor sitting there just chatting with someone, obviously not seeing a patient, just visiting. And I thought, no, that's interesting. Well, hopefully this will be a quick appointment then, because he doesn't have anyone ahead of me, right? So the nurse takes me into the room and she says, hopefully the doctor will be in soon. I'll do my best to get him in here. And then I thought, oh, okay. So this nurse knows something about this doctor. He must be a real talker. Well, he is a real talker because, unfortunately for him, that atrium has a really high ceiling and it echoes. And I was in a closed treatment room at the doctor's office, but I could hear him talking. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I could hear his voice. So I knew he's still sitting out there visiting with someone during my appointment time. I'm sitting in his waiting room, or in his treatment room. So the problem I have with this treatment room is there are two very fancy, beautiful chairs. This office is all about being fancy and beautiful. And they are the two most uncomfortable chairs I have ever sat on. So I sit up on the treatment table. And after waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and listening to him, hearing his voice echoing through that atrium, I finally lay down on the treatment table because there's just nowhere comfortable to be in this space. So when he comes in the room, and I've waited about 25 minutes listening to him talk to someone else on my time, he comes in the room and I sit up, and he says, "Oh, come over here and sit on these chairs so that we can visit." And I'd been stewing. I'd been stewing about listening to him talk and knowing that he's just wasting my time, that he could be in here with me. He wasn't with another patient. And I just blurted out, those are the most uncomfortable chairs I've ever sat in. I absolutely hate those chairs. And he looked stunned. He looked very stunned. He sort of couldn't believe that I had said that. And he sort of spluttered and, oh, well, I'm sorry. I mean, I guess you could sit up here on the treatment table if you want, which of course, obviously is also very uncomfortable. And I said, no, it's fine. I'll just sit here. Through the entire appointment, he could tell that I was irritated with him. I think he finally got it, because at one point he said, let's get through this quickly. I don't want to make you wait any longer. And I think maybe I got my point across, although I did not do it in a very effective way, honestly. I didn't mean to be rude, but I was so irritated with him, and it was building up and building up, and I'm sitting in there. And so when he came in the room, I just couldn't help it. And I didn't actually address what was truly wrong, and really, what would he have said if I'd said, I could hear you sitting out there just visiting with someone while you were wasting my time. I don't appreciate that. I could have said that, and it may have been more effective. I don't know, but it was a good example to me of the way that we let things fester and then blow up. This was all very quick, obviously. It didn't take very long for this festering to happen. But I recognized that I did not handle it very well. It was not exactly what I wanted to say to him, really. And so I've been, evaluating how do I handle that for future experiences with him, because I'm going to see him again. And so how is it going to go this time? And I'm curious if those chairs will still be there when I get back, because they really are. They're ridiculous. They're not doctor's office chairs. They're like fancy sitting room chairs, and they're not meant for people to sit in a comfortable way. They just aren't. So curious about it, but it was a good example to me of something that a lot of us do. And I know it's something that I do and that I really have to work on. I'm a Sagittarius, and Sagittariuses have pretty sharp tongues. When I was in high school, I had a really hard time with not saying absolutely everything that I was thinking and not being too sharp-tongued. I was, and I offended teachers. It was especially authority figures that I had a difficult time. If they didn't treat me with respect, I was not really able to do the same for them. So that was a real challenge for me and something I've had to work on. So I was thinking about, okay, so what are some reality steps? How do we handle speaking our truth in a way that is constructive, that is helpful, that doesn't cause more problems, but still get our point across? And I think that first we have to really think about what we say before we say it. Just popping off like I did at the doctor doesn't necessarily solve the problem. And sometimes what you're thinking is not exactly what you should say if you're looking at being effective. So in that situation, I wanted him to know that I don't like to wait when there's no reason to wait. I wanted him to know that I value my time just as much as he values his, and that when I have an appointment, I expect to be seen in a reasonable amount of time. And, I recognize that there's always some waiting in doctors' offices. Believe me, I go to many doctors. And so I have had a lot of different experiences with waiting in waiting rooms. Some people are very fast and very right on the money as far as their time is concerned. And others are, sometimes an hour or more behind, very blasé about it. This apparently is an issue for me because I had a similar issue at my chiropractor's office recently. I waited for an hour past my appointment time for the chiropractor. I finally went up to the front desk and I said, "I don't understand what's going on. I've been here an hour past my appointment time. Am I ever going to see the doctor?" And I wasn't rude. I was just upfront that, I've been here a really long time. Am I ever going to see this guy? And they just jumped to attention. Everyone did. And they all ran around and they got me into the doctor really quickly. And the doctor himself apologized. And now every time I see him, he asks me if I had to wait too long. Very aware of it, which I appreciate. And this week, when I went to see him, I waited a long time. I had waited a half an hour past my appointment time. And the nurse came and got me and said, "We're running behind, but why don't we put you on the roller table for a while so that you don't have to wait? Maybe this will help your back feel better." So they have this, it's like a massage bed that you lay on. And I laid on it for 15 minutes and then they came and got me and took me in to see the doctor. And the doctor asked me, "Did you like that massage bed?" Like they know that this is kind of an issue for me. I don't like having to wait so long. And they are treating me accordingly. They're aware of it. I like how I handled that situation much better than the one last week. And so those are some examples for me in my own life of how this can happen, for me. And how to handle that. So I had been at the chiropractor's office when I was irritated with waiting so long. I had been sitting there thinking for a few minutes about what I was going to say because I was feeling really irritated. Like on the inside, I was ready to boil over, but I didn't want to do that to the office staff because I know it's not really their fault. If the doctor's behind, the doctor's behind. It turned out that they had taken someone who had been in a car accident, so they took an emergency appointment, which put their entire schedule off for the whole day. And when the doctor explained that to me, I actually felt a lot better about it. And I wish that they had been upfront and communicated that to me at the beginning, that, "Hey, we're running a little behind. This is why we had an emergency. We hope that you can be patient with us." Had they said that to me at the beginning, I wouldn't even have been mad. Because I get that. That happens. I've had to have emergency appointments before too. It happens to people, but they didn't communicate it to me. So it's this two-way street also that is really important. Expecting good communication from others is reasonable. And it's okay to let people know, hey, if you had told me that at the beginning, I wouldn't have been irritated about this. Had I known and been involved in what was going on, since this is my appointment, it would have been helpful to me. So those are some things to think about, is thinking through what you're going to say before you say it. Also really asking yourself, what does it matter? Is it going to solve a problem for you? I'm a social worker. I'm very solution based in all of my thinking, and everything that I do. I'm always thinking about, what's the problem? Does this solve the problem? That's a big part of just my makeup, I think, not just with clients, but in my own life. I've always been that way. And so I do ask myself, and obviously, my little blow up at the doctor's office last week didn't really solve a problem. It didn't make him come into the office any faster. I don't know that it will make him be any quicker with meeting with me the next time. It did create some awkwardness with him, which I don't want to have, because I want to have a good relationship with my medical providers. That's really, really important to me, that I get good care. And I know that medical providers are human, and that they don't always work the same with some people if they don't like them. you know if you're rude, or they think that you expect too much, they may not be as provide you as good a care. And I hate to say that out loud, but it is true. I have found it to be true. If I sort of have an issue with a doctor, sometimes it affects the quality of care that I get with them. And so I've always worked to be diplomatic with my doctors. So I'm always thinking about that problem. Is it going to solve a problem? If it is not going to solve a problem, but you really still need to express it, another part of this with communication is, not only do you say how you feel to the person that is affecting you, or that you are affected, it frustrates me to wait when I know you're just visiting with someone, or maybe it wouldn't have been helpful. But maybe what I should have done is just saw my doctor and then went home and told my wife how irritated I was about it. We need those people to vent to. We need somebody to tell about certain situations, because not always is it a person to address. Not always is it something you can do anything about in the moment. And so I think it's really important that we think about that sort of, what is the problem? Does this solve the problem way of thinking when it comes to communication? And if it doesn't solve a problem, and if it might in fact create another, then we're in a better situation to go, okay, I can't wait to get home and tell my spouse about this. Or I can't wait to text my best friend and say, you will not believe what happened to me at the doctor's office. Vent to someone. But it doesn't always mean addressing directly someone in the moment. It can, but not necessarily. So those are a couple of tips I've been working with lately. Sometimes they work for me, sometimes they don't, obviously, because I did pop off pretty good last week. But I try to learn from every experience, and that's the other part of communication, that I think that if we look back at our patterns, look back at your own patterns. Are you a stuffer? Say at work, you've got someone who really irritates you. Are you stuffing and stuffing and stuffing and stuffing those feelings? And then do you one day explode on them? Or you go to your boss and personally attack that coworker? Not a solution based situation there, because it will create more drama, it will create more problems. So in the moment, sometimes it helps to express yourself in a way that makes it about you. So if you're irritated with a coworker, saying to them, you're being a real jackass right now, I need you to leave me alone, is not going to be an effective way of talking to that person. If you say, hey, I really have a headache and I'm trying to focus, can you just help me have some quiet? Make it about yourself. Make it about you. Then it's not a personal affront. Then it's not an attack. You have expressed your needs, said what you needed, said your piece, and you've done it in a way that the other person might go, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. I get that. I had a headache last week and it was so hard to focus. I'll leave you alone and let you do your work. It can be really helpful to do that as far as communication is concerned. Really thinking about what is the problem and how to solve it, and how to solve it in a positive way helps very much. I think the other part of this is that it's okay to see yourself as someone who has value, as someone who matters, and your feelings and opinions do matter. And it is okay if you have a need to express it. Sometimes we stuff for so long that we begin to think that our emotions don't matter, that it doesn't matter what other people think, that it doesn't matter what other people do. We don't really matter. They can make their own choices. They can hurt us or be difficult or, not hear us, not listen. And that's okay because we don't really matter. It's the thing that we teach ourselves unconsciously when we don't speak up and say how we feel. Over time, you're teaching yourself you don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. And so you start to say what you feel less and less and less and less. Really, really destructive pattern, because those emotions are inside of you. Whether you express them or not, they still exist, right? Well, if you don't express them, they still exist. So they're stuck inside of you. They build up in different ways. They build up in all kinds of ways that you guys all know. I work with you on, many of you, on clearing emotional energy from you, clearing blocks, clearing imbalances, low vibration, all those things. So much of that is emotional energy that's pent up inside of you that needs to be released. That's one way that we release that energy, is by expressing our emotions. And it doesn't matter necessarily how we express them. It does matter that we do express them, but always be solution-based when it comes to communication. What's the problem? How is saying this going to solve it? And if it isn't, go home and write a letter and burn it, or call your best friend, or go for a run, or do something physical, wash the dishes. I'm known for housework when I'm irritated or frustrated. I need to burn off those emotions somehow. So suddenly the house is, spotless, which might be a surprise to my family. But, find a way to burn off the emotional energy if it isn't something that you can say directly to a person or out loud. The other part of it is that we can't always be afraid of hurting someone else's feelings or making them mad, because ultimately we're not making them anything. They're choosing their response. They can choose to hear you and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you or frustrate you. My chiropractor said, I'm very sorry, I didn't mean to make you wait. I didn't mean to that was very frustrating for you, and I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. That helped me. That diffused the situation immediately. And so I felt really good about the fact that I had expressed myself, because now they don't make me wait at that office. They have, they come up with solutions when there is a problem, so that I'm at least getting something out of the deal, like what happened yesterday, which I really appreciate. I feel like speaking that gave me a better experience in the long term with them. And maybe I think he was embarrassed. He seemed embarrassed that I was irritated. And, I didn't mean to embarrass him, but obviously his choice to respond the way that he responded. So we always have a choice about how we respond. We don't really have a choice about how other people respond. But what we can do is choose our words wisely. Say the very minimum of what you need to say. You don't have to tell the big, long story. Tell the short version in a way that focuses directly on you. I'm feeling really tired today. I just need a break. Can you give me a little bit of time alone? Boom, done. You don't have to tell the whole long story about why you're pissed off and frustrated and why this person is driving you nuts. You don't have to tell all of that. You can say it in a single sentence that gives you exactly what you need. And most people will respond to that. When they don't feel attacked, most people respond to our needs. When we just consciously say, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm needing, that's all it takes. So, wanted you to think about that a little bit. I'm going to check the chat room, and then we're going to do a meditation. So I see you guys coming in here. I know you've got things to say, as always. Let me check the... Elizabeth says she loves this topic and to speak her truth, but she is not washing the dishes. Okay, well, you don't have to. Kai says, labeled the difficult patient for speaking your truth. Yes, I have been there. I have a rare disease. And because I have a rare disease, most of my doctors are much less familiar with my condition than I am. And so I know a lot about my condition. I've researched it. I've studied it. I've learned a ton, because I regularly am educating doctors about my condition. And so some doctors don't like that. They kind of see me as a know-it-all, and they don't really want a patient telling them. But it's hard, because I I need providers that understand me. If they don't, they could kill me. They could accidentally really hurt me if they don't listen to what I have to say. And so I will always speak up. And I have had to weed out some medical professionals in my life that couldn't tolerate a patient that knows a lot about their own condition and that is willing to speak up and say, I don't think that's a good idea for me because of blah, 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 and reference information that I know about my condition that obviously they don't. So I get that, being labeled difficult. So I do tend to work with doctors who are okay with someone who is strong-minded and has an opinion. And, I don't just take everything in face value. I had an argument with my ENT last week because he wants to treat me in a way that I think is incorrect. And I think that it's okay to be able to say those things. It's my body. It's my life. I have the right to choose, don't I? So it's okay for you to stand up for yourself, even in situations that it makes other people uncomfortable. Let's see. Julia says, funny how doctor's offices want you there 15 to 30 minutes early, but don't mind keeping you waiting for 1 hour or more. Right. Very true. Katie says, I love it when we travel 2.5 hours or more to see a doctor to get there and they canceled the appointment because something happened. But we had to go to offices to be informed about the changes. It gets frustrating. It does. Poor communication in situations like that can be very frustrating. And it does create that sort of explosion when people don't tell you. Because, right, why didn't they just give you a call and, expect you to drive all the way there? Julia says, I'm a stuffer and a people pleaser. Yeah. Okay, I get that, Julia, because, well, a lot of us here in the metaphysical community are stuffers and we are people pleasers. The bottom line is that the only person in charge of your happiness is you. And so sometimes you have to make a choice about what you're going to do that's best for you. And it is very conscious, it is very intentional, and at first it feels very awkward because it is not naturally what most empaths do. And most of us here today listening to the show, myself included, are empaths. We have a tendency to take the temperature of another person's emotions and then respond to them accordingly. That does not help us. That does not help us with communication. So at first, Julia, it's about choosing one thing. Choose one thing that you can work on that is really an issue for you. Choose something easy the first time. And maybe none of them feel easy, but maybe choose something that's smaller. I would say smaller at least. And speak your truth about it. Say how you really feel in that particular situation. Just try one thing. This is a baby steps process when you're really struggling. But the reality is that if you want to be happy, you have to be in charge of your own happiness. You have to do that. No one else is going to do it for you. I know that to be true for me and for all of us, that we are responsible for our own happiness, and clear communication and speaking our truth is a huge part of that. That if you don't really say how you feel, you aren't going to be very happy. So if you want to choose happiness, choose one thing to work on and work on it, Right now, apparently, it's me and doctors. I'm working on being more assertive. I'm working on, saying what I feel. Sometimes it goes well and other times it doesn't. But it is something that I have a regular frustration with. And so it is something that I'm working on. So don't beat yourself up. Don't worry if you, blurt out something like, I really hate these chairs to your doctor like I did, because it's a step, right? I took it too far. Now I have to dial it back a step. And next time say maybe, this room is sort of uncomfortable for me. I wonder, do you have different chairs or is there a different place that we could meet? I have rheumatoid arthritis. And so sometimes, seating can be really uncomfortable in doctor's offices for me because they choose chairs not for the reasons that they should. Like the waiting area of that particular doctor's office are these big, giant, beautiful, sort of Victorian looking chairs. And they are absolutely horrible for me because my feet are like like 18 inches off the floor. I cannot touch the floor when I sit in them, which is a terrible feeling. And when you have, RA, that's not good on your joints. And anyway, so you can tell that they're not thinking about their patient's needs in that situation. So it's okay to say this is not very comfortable. You might consider changing these chairs out for something that would be more comfortable for people to sit in if they have to wait a long time. Maybe you just slip that in there, and then they know a little bit about what your concern is. Okay, I wanted to check a little more with the chat room. Terry says problem is when expression is emotion loaded, which unfortunately usually what prompts the expression. Much easier to practice releasing the emotion independent of communicating in my practice. Yeah. And I think that that's true for many of us, that sometimes you can't say it because if you know you're going to scream somebody's face off, you should probably take a break. I communicate by electronically a lot. My clientele are all on the phone, and I have a lot of email communication, not just with clients, but with a lot of people in my life, including a couple of volunteer organizations I'm on the board of and different things. And I find that if I'm irritated about something, I do not immediately fire another email back. I'm going to make a mistake here. I'm going to say some stuff I don't mean to say. I'm going to come across with a tone that I didn't intend. I will give myself, sometimes it's a few hours, sometimes it's overnight, to allow the emotion to diffuse before I respond. I've found that helps me a lot, and not being so instantaneous, not being so immediate about something if it's something that I know that I can't respond in the way I want to. So giving it a little time, Terry, I think sometimes helps too. Katie says passive aggressive. I will just give the side eye. I don't like to confront. Yeah. I know a lot of us don't like to confront. The hard part is that sometimes we have to confront. Sometimes something is really impacting you in a negative way and you have to speak up. And I am number one on the list of people who hate confrontation. I will avoid it at all costs. However, I know that sometimes it is very necessary. And so I do encourage it, to pick and choose a time when it's, something that you need. Okay, so then I want to do a meditation. And the meditation I chose today is not really about communication. It is more about recognizing that divine spark in you that gives you the right to speak up, gives you the right to take up space on this planet, gives you the right to have an opinion, and gives you the right to express your needs. So let's do this meditation together. This is Divine Spark. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Allow your body to settle and your mind to go quiet. Follow me on a journey to find the divine spark in you. Come with me as we walk down a wooded path. Feel the cool air on your face. Hear the pine needles crunch softly under your feet. Ahead, you see a clearing. Standing in the clearing is a beautiful gilded mirror. Approach the mirror and stand in front of it and take in the picture before you. There you stand, the divine you. See the flame of your heart light flicker in the breeze. See the beautiful colors of your aura as they move and swirl around you. Now see the powerful red cord of energy that connects you to the earth. And note the silver thread that connects you to the divine. Take in the real you, the one that is the divine, the one that is infinite, the one that will live on beyond this lifetime. Now take a moment to memorize this image. You will need it to give you strength when you feel weak and disconnected. Remember that this is who you really are. And when you're ready, join me as we walk back up the path. Breathing in the scent of the trees and feeling the sun on your face. Now take 3 deep breaths. And open your eyes. We really are, and how sometimes we get really stuck in who we think we are. And we have to take a step back and look. I talked about perspective last week here on the show, and I've had an interesting experience with a client recently where we talked about how sometimes what we see in ourselves and what we see as our life is not what other people see. So we don't necessarily recognize all of the good things, all of the contributions that we make, all of the strives that we've made. That's what most people tend to see about us. And what we see is everywhere that we've failed. We see where we're not living up to what we wanted to do. We're not doing well enough. We see the problem areas, and other people see our accomplishments. So it's important to take a step back and look at yourself from a more objective perspective in order to really see who you really are altogether. And I do believe in that divine spark in all of us, that heart light in all of us that exists in every single one of us, that our divinity is so clear to me as a reader of energy. I see that in every single one of you, and I know it to be true. And so it's something that I want to continually remind us to not get stuck in the mistakes or in the failings or in what we think we should be, but really see, the power in what we are. So this week, of course, I pulled the heart chakra card. Or no, I didn't. I pulled the throat chakra card, which would make a lot more sense since we're talking about speaking your truth. I'll show you the card. And I'm posting the graphic of it in the chat room. These are from my cards, my Kindred Spirits Energy Oracle. So this is the throat chakra card. As you know, my cards are fractals. I made my fractals to look like what I see in a person's energy body, in my own and other people's. So this is what the throat chakra looks like to me. And the throat chakra, let's see, let me post the card in here and then I'll and validation when we validate ourselves and our own emotions. The challenges that we have with the throat chakra are holding back, being dishonest, and using distraction. Do you ever distract someone away from seeing how you feel, or away from you having to speak your truth? We distract ourselves and other people from speaking our truth. Not helpful in lots of ways. The stone is blue lace agate, and I'm going to post a picture of that here in a minute. The meditation for the throat chakra is I speak my truth, I share my needs, I am open. So closed throat chakra, common problem for lots of us, right? We may have been raised with it. Were you raised in a society or in a family that told you that emotions were bad, or you were to be seen and not heard, or there were certain emotions that were not good, and so you weren't allowed to say them. You weren't supposed to speak them. We all grew up with some rules around communication, didn't we? And sometimes those rules can really get in the way. And so it's time to take a look at those communication rules and throw out the ones that don't work for us anymore. We get taught at a very young age about how we're supposed to communicate, and a lot of what we're taught is to stuff our emotions, suppress things, don't express bad emotions, which is anger or frustration or irritation. Those are bad things. We're not supposed to feel those, except that we do. We all feel them. We all feel all the emotions. Whether we express them or not is really the issue. So I love blue lace agate to work with this issue because it is the stone of unconditional love. The color of blue lace agate is the color of unconditional love. Now, what could be better for helping you to communicate yourself and to communicate with other people if you do it in a way that is unconditionally loving to yourself and to the person that you're communicating with? It connects your heart and throat. So what you feel and what you say are connected. That's really important, and it helps you to say what you really feel, but it helps you to do that in a loving way. So if you are a stone person, get yourself a piece of blue lace agate. I like to carry it. I forgot to grab a piece to show you on the video, but I like to carry it as a worry stone. If I'm finding that I'm popping off at people, which is something I have a problem with and that I work on all the time, if I'm being too snappy, then I carry a piece of blue lace agate, and it really helps to bring that intensity level of communication down to a place where I can say what I need to say in a more comfortable way that doesn't come across as being snappy. Okay, let's see. So, lots and lots of questions here in the chat. I'm going to get to as many of you as I can. Thank you all for your comments on my hair and my appearance today. It's always nice for people to tell you that you look pretty. It makes you feel good, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, I want to look nice. I want to feel good about myself, and it's nice when people notice. So thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to start with Julia. Julia says, can you check if my throat, heart chakras are open, please? Ooh, good. And good combination, because they both need to be. They connect with one another. I was just going to describe something that you actually have. So sometimes what happens is we get what I call a heart throat block, and it happens where you sort of feel it in your upper chest. So it's kind of between your heart chakra and your throat chakra. You get sort of this bubble of energy that gets stuck. And so it can feel like pressure. It can feel like a weight. It can feel like there's something stuck inside your throat. And that is a heart throat block. That means that something that you have been feeling has not been expressed, and it's stuck in here. So it needs to be cleared in order to get the energy moving through you the way that it should, to allow for clear communication. The more we stuff, the harder it is to say what we really feel. We get ourselves in a habit. We also get ourselves in a place in the energy body where there is a block, so that things aren't flowing the way that they should, and it impedes communication. So Julia, good call. That is definitely an issue that you have. So heart throat blocks are always something that we have to clear together. I will do my part, then you have to go do yours. My part is to clear all of the energy that can go. Over time, we've stuffed emotions that are no longer serving us. We've stuffed things that don't matter anymore, issues that have already happened, stuff that's stuck in there that really is no longer an issue. It's not stuff that needs to be directly communicated anymore. It's an old issue. So I'm going to clear all the old issues away, Julia. There is something here that is not an old issue, that is a current issue. I can't clear that for you. Only you can do that. You communicating it is what releases it. So I'm clearing as much as I can, and I feel a lot of energy releasing here. You guys know I'm a very physical empath, and so I feel that energy leaving your system just as though it were leaving mine. And so I feel an opening happening here between your heart and your throat. So there's space there. Now there's space for energy to move. So there's space for you to communicate whatever it is that you feel that you need to say. So I want you to take a look at something that is current, that needs to be communicated, something that maybe you're hanging on to that is an issue right now in your life, please use this as the opportunity to say something, speak about it, tell someone, in some way express that emotion. And I feel like you will release the rest of what's stuck in there. Julia, I also feel like that will begin a better habit of having a more open. It's a relationship issue. Julia says, do you get a sense of what it might be? Yes, it's something to do with a relationship with another person. You're feeling hurt, you're feeling ignored, something's going on where you're feeling something in a relationship with another person, and that needs to be expressed. That's what's stuck in there. So this is your chance to start this process. Go out there, express this in whatever way feels the most appropriate to you, and get in a better habit of not letting things get stuck in there. Okay. Thank you so much for your question and for being here today. Okay, let's get back here to the chat room, see what all you touched on a subject that rings loud to many people. Yes, I have taken a course on getting the romantic relationship you want, and nothing different happened. Definitely give some details on your class and the narrative on what to anticipate and expectations. I absolutely enjoy calling you and reap the benefits of our phone sessions. Thank you, Violet. This is why I'm asking for details so I'm able to be able to feel motivated for a better outcome taking your course. Okay, so Violet, one thing that I want you to be really clear about is that a class won't change anything. It is you taking what you learn from the class and applying it to your life. So the information comes and then the application comes, and that's where things change. I'm looking at it from a very energy standpoint. This class is all about energy and relationships, how to get out of patterns that you've been stuck in, how to stop doing the same thing that doesn't work, how to identify people who are a good fit for you, and then how to make that last. That's just a little overview of what the class will focus on. I'll also present a program that I'm going to be offering that goes along with the class. So if you want to go deeper on those topics with me, you can. But that's what I'm going to be talking about. So it's definitely some skills based things that you will then use in your daily life when it comes to relationships. So you learn the information, then you take it out and apply it. Okay. I hope that helps. I'd love to see you in class. Let's see. Eva says, Christy, can you check my throat chakra? In my past, I definitely didn't express myself. With age and time, it's getting better. I love that, Eva. I do think at age, it gets better. I sort of feel like my give a damn is a little broken these days, and I speak up more than I used to, and so I'm noticing that for myself as well. So let's see what's going on in your energy body. Let me just take a look here. What I see here is a lot of healing, particularly in your throat chakra, which does follow exactly what you said. So, a healing chakra has a certain way of appearing to me that indicates that there's been some change that has happened. I feel like your throat is actually quite open. I feel a lot of good movement there. The throat chakra is a place you want lots of movement. It should be moving all the time. Stagnant or stuck energy is what keeps us from expressing ourselves. So I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. Don't fall out of it. And I would take it to the next step. So push yourself just a little bit. So maybe there are still a few things that you haven't spoken up about as much as others. Push yourself. Choose something that you know you're still stuffing about and push yourself to that next level. I feel like you're already doing great work and that all you have to do is push yourself and push yourself a little bit at a time, and you're going to just continue to do great. So thank you for that question. Raven says, I pace up and down the hallway and go on a rant for 5 to 15 minutes, and then I put on happy music. Good. Great way to express that emotional energy. I hope, Raven, that there is some direct communication that happens too. We all need some. It doesn't mean everything that we feel has to come out of our mouths. Trust me, as a teenager, I had a real problem with that. I know how it works, and it doesn't. And I love the physical action and the music that you're doing. Great ways to help burn off emotional energy. Carol says, my Sag mouth gets me in trouble all the time. Oh, solidarity, Carol. Last night, I got into it with my husband. He almost made a big mistake and didn't like how I told him. He was going to buy a van and it turned out to be a scam. I told him that and he got mad. And even after I proved it was a scam, he was still upset with me. I'm done trying to please. Honestly, Carol, if you had pleased him, he would have bought a van that was a scam or just gave the money and didn't even get a van, right? So you did the right thing. And sometimes we do upset other people, but that's their choice. What their response is their choice. He probably felt embarrassed that he'd been duped. And so his anger and frustration may have come out at you, but it probably was actually directed at himself. It's one thing that I know to be true is that so much of what people say, they really mean toward themselves, not to the outside world. We project our issues onto other people. It's easier than facing ourselves and taking responsibility. I bet that's what he did. But in the long run, you did the right thing because you saved your family from getting scammed. Renee says, communication is one of my favorite topics. I have Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroid. So at some point before this, did I have an overactive fifth chakra? Well, it can be. I will say that it's not always that simple. The energy body has a big impact on the physical body, but it is not the only factor. I would say, Renee, that you have a chronically out of balance throat chakra. Now, was it always overactive? Probably not. Most out of balance throat chakras actually bounce back and forth between underactive and overactive. So we never really stay in just one place. We're looking for balance. We're looking for the middle ground rather than the bouncing back and forth. So yeah, let's do a check-in on this. I feel like, Renee, that you had experiences in your past where you did a lot of stuffing and then you had explosions and it would be released and you would feel better for a while and then you would do more stuffing and then there were more explosions. I feel like that you are doing better there now. Your throat feels quite good to me. I had a thyroid tumor, had to have my thyroid removed. So I know about energy and throat chakra stuff and thyroids because I've been through it myself. When I feel someone that has a lot of trouble in their throat chakra that is affecting their thyroid, I feel a lump in my throat. And it's always, whether it's hyper or hypo, it doesn't matter. I feel this physical sensation. You don't have it, which indicates to me that although you may have had this problem in the past, you don't have it anymore. You have resolved it, which I think is really awesome. So keep doing what you're doing and know that it is not just our choices in communication that would cause Graves' disease or my thyroid tumor. There are all kinds of other things at play as well. It can be a contributing factor, of course, but I never want to limit us to energy is everything. It's not. It's part of it. It's part of life. It's part of our growth and development and what makes us healthy or makes us unhealthy, but it's not all of it. Good question. Thank you for that. Let's see. Let's see. A couple of questions here in the video. Bernadette says, trying to set boundaries. How is my throat chakra? I feel an improving, but not there yet. Oh, cool. Okay. Bernadette, awesome. Because setting boundaries is a huge part of communication, as you know, and as we all know. And so let's take a look at what's going on in there. So I do feel some energy that I can clear, Bernadette. I feel like you have some of that old energy, like Julia did, that can really it slows down the function of your energy body in this area and makes it a little bit harder to release things. And so you might feel like you get stuck in a pattern and not be able to get out of it, and it's because of that old energy. So that's where I'm going to help you. I want to encourage you to keep doing exactly what you're doing, but also to remember this piece that you want to let go of things that have been there in the past, and an energy healer can help you to do that. There are skills that you can learn to help you to do that as well. I don't have time to teach them right now, but hit me up over at Want to Listen if you would like to learn some things that you can do to clear that old stuff out and to clear your throat chakra yourself. I would be happy to teach you to do that. Katie says, I've always had a hard time speaking out. I feel like I speak out, but still feel like I am not listened to. Okay, so two different issues there, right? The bottom line is that when we speak our truth, it is not because we want a certain outcome. It might be, but it shouldn't be. When we speak our truth, it's because we're saying how we really feel. Now, if we get the outcome or not does not mean that we were unsuccessful. If we don't get what we asked for, it doesn't mean we were unsuccessful. It simply means that the other person chose their reaction as well. So sometimes it takes more work and more negotiating to get what you want, but you will not necessarily feel listened to, and you will not necessarily feel like you got what you needed in that moment. They may not have had some people in your life that really don't give you what you need and don't you feel listened to, and those people might not be the right people for you. Okay. All right, you guys, we are out of time. I want to say thank you all so much for being here with me today. Don't forget my class over at 12 Academy. It's coming up on the 28th. Get the relationship that you want. You can go to 12academy.com to learn more about it. I will be available over at 12listen.com later on today if you would like a reading or a healing. If you want to go deeper with what we're doing right now, you will find me here tomorrow with no, you will not find me here tomorrow. Sorry, you will find me here on Monday with the 1-2 News Show with Katie Weaver. We co-host that, and then on Wednesdays with 1-2 Meditations, on Thursdays with the Psychic Sisters, and always on Fridays with Kindred Spirits. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great weekend. Please stay tuned for our upcoming show, which I think is down the rabbit hole today. I know they've switched their names out, so I'm not always sure, but you don't want to miss that. And thank you so much for being here and for listening to 1-2 Radio, where we're changing the way you listen to the world. Okay.